Being an actor, I'm used to exploring new worlds. Worlds that are fictional and safe. But over the past year, I've found myself in a world that is all too real, none too safe, and extremely controversial. I'm on my way to Cannes in the south of France, home to the prestigious film festival. As an actor, I've been there several times before. This time, I'm going for a completely different reason. Places like the south of France have always represented money, success, and glamour. But behind these scenes, there's a multi-million-dollar industry protecting this world and its assets. Whether it's the super wealthy living here in the south of France or international corporations vying for the world's resources, these people don't depend on the police or governments to provide protection. They rely on private security companies. And business is booming. From personal bodyguards to military contractors in Iraq to diamond dealers in West Africa, private security has become one of the fastest growing industries in the world. I spoke to writer and security correspondent Ralph Riegel, who outlined the rise of the modern-day private security contractor.
When the Cold War ended, the major military nations, Russia, the United States, Britain, France, they basically had huge armies which they couldn't afford and they didn't need anymore. So what they did was they wound them down, which left an awful lot of very, very experienced, very seasoned military personnel at quite young ages. I mean, these guys were in their 30s and 40s without work. And I suppose the second thing as well is the fact that the whole advent of terrorism and this perceived threat has spilled over into the commercial areas. Things like the diamond industry, the oil industry. I mean, if you look at East Africa at the moment, the shipping industry, that you have Somali pirates, it has created a demand for people who have very valuable assets that need to be protected.
It's taken about a year, but as you can tell from the welcoming committee, we finally got an in to this covert world. I'm about to meet Paul Butler, head of EDS, one of the most successful security companies on the Riviera. I want to find out what motivates these guys, what makes them tick, and why there's a growing worldwide demand for their services. Butler is an ex-Irish Army Ranger and has spent time in the French Foreign Legion. Today, he employs 20 full-time personnel, providing private security to celebrities, royalty, and, as they're referred to, high net worth individuals all across the south of France.
Okay, unload, make safe. Back to the board. Liam.
You well? I wasn't expecting this now. I usually see this in Belfast, not in Provence.
The guys are wearing balaclavas just to not be recognised on television, really.
Okay.
You know?
Is this just a regular training exercise?
Yeah. Yeah, we come down here 3 times a month just to have the teams work as one.
Okay.
We're trying to keep it all together by putting these guys in, firing live ammunition, how they evacuate the VIP, all that sort of stuff.
All right. We were looking at some of the statistics for the south of France, and we saw the crime was on the increase there, and therefore security was on the increase. Is that a thing that's happening, like, everywhere? Or?
No, I think it's happening in areas where there's great concentrations of wealth, or where wealthy people tend to go. And if you look at the south of France, there's a lot of money there. And what has changed, I think, in the last 10 years or 15 years is that you've had very serious crime organizations emerge in the old Soviet bloc. And a lot of those have located in the south of France and in certain parts of Spain. And they're not averse to using extreme violence. They're not averse to kidnapping, armed robbery. And it's natural that they're going to go where the wealth and the profits are.
In France, it was last year it was up 100% armed robbery.
You're kidding me?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, it's good news for you.
Yeah, it is. But, you know, it's bad to meet people in those circumstances, you know?
Yeah.
But obviously, they need our assistance as well, so
yeah.
Everybody's happy at the end of the day.
After years of military service, Paul's first big break was a private contract with actor Patrick Swayze. To date, his clients have included Kevin Costner and Sylvester Stallone, among others, and his business turns over €1 million a year. What's the kind of profile of the clients you look after?
Could be footballers' wives, could be, you know, industrials coming down here with their children. This area is known for stars, you know, like film stars, music. The world is changing, so these people, they feel more vulnerable, you know? So everybody
want their money.
Yeah, absolutely. And they don't want to be hassled, you know?
Wealth isn't hidden anymore. You know, you can turn on television, you can listen to the radio, and you're going to hear stories about the celebrity culture, the celebrity lifestyle, where people who have made huge amounts of money are enjoying that wealth. And people that are living in slums, people that are living in horrendously disadvantaged conditions, it's inevitable they're going to want their share of the pie. And for the wealthy, the wall that stands between them and the poor is manned by private security contractors.
Just looking at these diamond-encrusted pieces of jewellery. A fully diamond-encrusted watch. I suppose that's why the people who can afford these things are requiring the services of Paul. They've bought them, they pay for them, and they want to hang on to them. Paul took me to see one of the properties he'd provide security for. If you can afford €250,000 a month to rent this place, then what's another 10 grand a week to feel safe? That's how much Paul charges. Frederic is the agent who manages the villa.
People ask us more and more security because they don't feel safe, and most of the people they're from, you know, Eastern Europe, and they used to have security, and they really don't feel that they could live without security.
I understand.
It's kind of cultural. Those people are used to have, you know, a chauffeur, security in the car, in their villas, and they never drive without security, that's for sure. It's very, very important.
Later that night, Paul got a rapid response call to a villa in the hills outside Cannes.
Oh, where's this fucking place now? The procedure is basically anybody who signed up for that emergency response, if they're worried about that, and the car will come up to them, and they'll go into the villa, they'll look around the property and come out again. Okay, hang on there, all right? Don't move. And the response time has to be between 5 and 7 minutes.
That's the guarantee, is it?
Yeah.
What the hell is that? I've just seen him pulling something out of his bag. I'm not really sure what it was. It was some kind of weapon. It wasn't a gun, I don't think, but...
All right, mate. We can go down.
Are we going in? What's the Star Wars thing here?
This is non-lethal, right?
Okay, you guys have to be non-lethal, don't you?
Yeah. And it fires a plastic bullet, right? It'll drop you at 50 meters, like. We had a bloke once there. He was being looked after by police. He was a foreign nationality, and he was kidnapped in his villa. Yeah, not here, but overseas. And they buried him under the ground for 6 months. They're feeding him through pipes and everything, till they paid up. So those sort of people are freaking out, you know, when they're in these villas at night time. So we provide a response call for. C'est bon, là, pour toi? Okay. So everything's in order. Okay, sir, c'est fini. Merci, hein.
It's 5 weeks since Cannes, and I'm on my way to Youghal in County Cork to meet Paul. He's back in Ireland to catch up with family, and while he's here, I'm going to dig a little deeper into his background.
So this is our playground here, right?
Yeah.
I used to live down there, that house over there, the yellow roof in it.
Yeah.
We'd have old cars, we'd be driving off the top of the bank there onto the beach.
Is anyone following you?
The fucking police were, yeah. We were about 12 years of age, right? Deadly, with a Morris Minor we had. We saved up all our money to buy that, right? So this is it, man. My mother died when I was 13, and I ended up in St. Patrick's.
You don't end up in Pats for the battery falling out of a car.
I was arrested once or twice, and then I think my family wouldn't vouch for me anymore because it could go further and further and further, you know. So they decided to put me in there for a while, you know. And the man that arrested me, Andy McNulty, he became a friend of mine afterwards, right? He used to send me a $5 every week, you know, so I'd be all right. And then there was Tom Bean and his wife Claire took me in after that. And we made a deal, like I wouldn't get into any more trouble and they'd feed me and I'd stay in their house, you know.
Yeah, a bit of kindness, huh?
Yeah, that's it, changed everything.
It doesn't take much, does it, really?
You can feel that stuff right away, you know. And just because of that, I didn't want to leave any of them down anymore.
Yeah.
That's why I went through the army, I went through the Ranger Wing, you know, just to show them that it was worth it, like, you know.
Bit of prevention, better than any cure.
Exactly.
Paul joined the army at the age of 16. Within 5 years, he had become part of the Army Ranger Wing, Ireland's Special Forces elite. Over 11,000 military personnel have attempted to become members of the unit. But to date, less than 400 have successfully completed training. Paul is one of those men.
It's mostly the mental stuff they're after, you know. Yeah. The physical fitness, we can train tomorrow for 3 months and you'll be fit, you know, but the mental stuff, if it's not there, it's not there. You come down to a certain level and then you either crack and you forget it and you say, fuck this, I'm going back to where I came from. But I didn't come from anywhere, you know, so I said, I have to stay here. I didn't have any parents, right? So that was my parents, the army.
A persistent knee injury cut short Paul's military career, but that didn't dampen his ambition. He set his sights on the brand new world of private security where he could exploit his military experience.
I wanted to show people basically that I was worth something. Yeah. And that's why I pushed the close protection part and the security and to get to the highest level possible with celebrities and executives, billionaires around the world to show them that, you know, at least I did something with my life, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's quite a few ex-Rangers set up their own companies, whether it be private security or go into the private military field. Can you enlighten us as to why that happens?
I think it's because of their skills training and their abilities. I mean, they're coming from a background where they're trained to think outside the box. They're trained to think for themselves. And when you transplant that from a military background to, say, a commercial background, I mean, they're ideally suited to seeing, you know, is there a niche in the market? If that niche is there, how do you expand it? How do you respond to the needs of what, say, companies or individuals or wealthy businessmen have? And I think that's why they've been so successful.
Any special forces, they have a chain of command. But when they move from that military idea to a business, it must be an extraordinary change for these guys.
It is, but it's a change that I think a lot of them have managed to pull off very, very successfully. And it's not unusual that the most successful private security and private military companies are largely run on military lines, with the only difference is that the guys running them, instead of following orders, they're the ones giving the orders.
It was in Youghal that I discovered that Paul's ambition had taken him a lot further than protecting rich widows and movie stars.
We have another project coming up in Liberia. Been working down there preparing stuff for the next trip. We're exporting diamonds out of the country. So our job will be to go there and verify if they're there in the first place, because a businessman not going to waste time going to see these guys if the product is not there. So I set up that company to go and verify if it's gold, diamonds, if it's there, you know, and how do we get it out? Okay. Legally, of course. So that's what the challenge is, to do that.
And would you regard that as being a high threat?
Absolutely.
Compared to close protection, this is a lot more dangerous, yeah?
Yeah.
Ten weeks later, Paul was on the ground in Liberia, and I was on my way to join him. Liberia's greatest assets are its natural resources: rubber, gold, oil, timber, and diamonds. But they are also the source of its problems. Bordered by the Ivory Coast and Sierra Leone in West Africa, Liberia has a reputation as a hostile environment. Decades of tribal and ethnic unrest spilled over into two vicious civil wars that devastated the country. Wars that were fought over and funded by natural resources, Today, the country is only just starting to get back on its feet. With an estimated 4 million people, Liberia has roughly the same population as Ireland, but that's where the similarities end. The UN Development Index ranks Liberia 162nd out of 169 countries. This country isn't just poor, it's really poor. But how can a country so resource-rich be so evidently poor? There are billions of dollars of foreign investment pouring into this country. Companies and individuals are queuing up to do business here. Paul Butler has invested over $30,000 to secure his government-approved diamond license. But that's part of the problem. The majority of its resources are coming straight out of the ground and exported out of Liberia to be processed elsewhere. There's 85% unemployment. One UN report describes the situation here as stable, but fragile. In official language, Liberia has a security void. Well, that's not to say that it's lawless. There's plenty of law and order here. But it's a private law and order. If you want safety and liberty in Liberia, you pay for it. Security has become a commodity, and it's a commodity most ordinary Liberians can't afford. I met up with Dr. Thomas Jay, an expert on African security, who was able to tell me more about the law and order vacuum here.
On record, we have 3,500 police officers being trained. But again, you look at the distribution across the country, you certainly still see that there's a void in different areas here and there. I mean, even right here in Monrovia, where we have a lot of police officers, I think there's still a challenge in terms of the insecurity issues and how they can possibly deal with that. Then you have a situation where you have local private security companies that are hired to guard the homes, the commercial houses, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I can afford to pay a private security company because of the nature of my job, but how many people, even in my immediate environment, can afford that? It's a question. There's a huge gap. It means there's inadequate security being provided.
Do you think these conflicts are fueled?
Conflict is business now. This is the problem. Conflict is business.
And therefore security is business.
Absolutely.
And private security is business.
When there's conflict and there's security, then those who are experts in these areas can have a job.
There are about 16 licensed private security companies in Liberia. One of them is co-owned by guess who? Paul Butler. So if Paul is dealing in millions of dollars worth of diamonds, he doesn't have to rely on the local police force or national security. Paul's personal security is taken care of by Paul's personal security company. Hey, Paul.
Hey, how are you? Pleased to meet you again,
This isn't your first time here, sure, is it?
No, it isn't. No. We came in here last year and we did a recce in the place to see what sort of opportunity there was. There was a hole there between when the people come into town and they want to buy diamonds, who are they going to pay? Are they going to pay the guys that are actually giving them the diamonds, and it makes it a big risk for them. So we decided that we'd set up licenses, right, for exporting diamonds. And of course, there's insurances and everything like that, but we have our own insurances as well, which is a different type of insurance, if you know what I mean.
No, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean a different sort of insurance?
Well, a lot of people would say, okay, you're insured, right? And you pay 100,000 euros for whatever you're doing, the insurance. We would use that insurance in men. You'd want to be mad to come in here and do business on your own. You have to spend the time and do the groundwork and find the right people for the job. So actually, I met Stephen Kane, and he had values that was useful for us. You know, he's the type of guy that we needed around us, you know, because he was very honest. And here we are. Hey, Stephen. How are you, man? All right? Nice to see you.
Stephen Kane is not only Paul's business partner, he's also his eyes and ears on the ground. For them, the security void here isn't a threat, it's an opportunity. In the van, Stephen let slip that they had just been contracted by an international diamond dealer.
The gemologists have arrived. We have arranged with the brokers, the miners, the dealers. They have the parcel, they're ready to strike this transaction.
What are your concerns, security-wise?
For our security, with the deal we are involved into, our business, is under control.
I wanted to find out what Paul had to say about this new client.
This is where we go normally when we want to have a quiet chat with people. Want to sit here? Yeah, go on.
So there's something going on with you at the minute as regards the diamond side of things and the business, apart from obviously the logistics thing which you're setting up, but you've got actually something on the go here, haven't you?
You don't need to know about that.
Yeah, but by the time it comes out, it'll all be finished, so you can tell us.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
I don't need the operating procedure. Just let us know what's going on.
Right, we're just sourcing for international clients. Sourcing and actually verifying packages. That's it. You know, that's the first phase of the program here. And once we get over that bit, we can tell you about the rest after, you know?
Okay, but you've international purchasers coming
Big
in, is it?
clients coming in, yeah. You know, this is why we set up the company in the first place, to try and get those people to come into and trust our setup and let us deal with all this stuff on the ground, right?
What you're not getting involved in is exactly what you get what you do back in Cannes with the close protection work. I mean, people come in, they phone, and you provide them with logistics of security, and you're not doing it here. What's the difference?
Everybody's the same in Cannes. We're the only white people down here operating as in this sort of type of business. You must remember we're coming from a war-ridden country here, 14 years of war. A lot of the people here were involved with war. They were chopping each other up and killing each other for years. So all those people are walking around the place. So that's another threat to us, right? Because they're capable of coming up and shooting somebody in the blink of an eye.
The average monthly wage is like $100 US. I mean, when you're dealing with, as you said yourself, multi-million-dollar clients and business deals, I mean, the temptation for crime must be enormous. I mean, how do you protect yourself against that?
It's the same if a team was going to Somalia looking after a ship and they get attacked by pirates. It's high risk as well, you know, so it comes with the trade, man. This is how we make our living, Liam, you know. Otherwise, we're watching the fucking grass grow.
Yeah.
You know, looking out the window at home. I have to fucking get out of here now in a minute.
Paul's military background means he's more than qualified to cope with a high-risk business in an unstable country. But that's nothing new. Even during the bloodiest period of Liberia's past, companies continued to trade, but only because they paid for private security. The sheer scale of natural resources here and the potential rewards means that people have always been prepared to take risks. A fact backed up by an American prospector, Leonard Cragness.
So, anyway, you see the businesses here. This is pretty much downtown Monrovia. And when I got here, I met these people, went to the bush, and they demonstrated to us that there really was the amount of gold they were saying, and it was 10 times better than anything I'd seen in my whole life. In any country I'd been in, from South America, Chile, you name it, Argentina. This country is basically a virgin. There's most of the ground, 90-some%, has never been other than hand mining, and hand mining doesn't even really count. The country's suffering from years of war. They've had pretty massive debts, and they've had debts forgiven, and they're trying to climb out of the hole, but it's kind of tough.
So I'm in my hotel room, reason being, Paul, somewhere in this hotel, is doing some sort of a deal for diamonds with international clients who've just flown in from India, we believe. And he's got very nervous, very cagey about us being around, and we've been shut out. But I hadn't come to Liberia to sit around a hotel room. I wanted to visit West Point, one of Monrovia's worst slums. Paul and Stephen had warned us not to go down there without them, but they were nowhere to be seen. However, if they weren't available, I knew some people who were. The UN mission in Liberia is one of the largest in the world. They were sent into Liberia in 2003 to stop the bloodshed and establish some kind of stability and security. God, life must be very hard for people here. This is a country trying to get back on its feet after almost a decade and a half of devastation. We're following a guy who's coming in to do business here. There's a lot of big businesses already in here. Do you think they're doing the nation a favor by being here?
The government is rebuilding itself. And to do that, they need money. The speed of development here now has, in the last year to 2 years, has cranked up remarkably. I think in most cases, you just got to have that trade-off.
Yeah, you have to hand over your resources to get the...
You know, I think it's necessary. Now, you know, is there exploitation? Of course.
So is this the toughest area for a police officer?
If I had time, I was going to take it to some ghettos to see.
You're going to take me to some ghetto. Is this the nice part of West Point?
Hey, this is not the nasty spot. The next spot is Blue Beach. But if you see suspects, you can run if you are not brave enough. If you are not brave enough, even with this uniform, you can run.
Even with a vest? And here it's quiet?
This is not quiet.
At night time, what's it like here?
Upside down.
She's got a really positive attitude. I have to hand it to her. She's cheery. She ain't depressed.
It's easy to see how restoring law and order here is a complex business. While the UN oversees the training of an entire new police force, multinationals like the rubber and tire giant Firestone protect their interests with their own private police force. Firestone are a very big company that's here, and they have a large private security presence. Have you had much dealings with them?
The case of Firestone is relatively, I think, unique here. They go back a long ways. And the relationship with the Liberian National Police is a good working relationship. And they are a good police service. I mean, are they private? Yes. While we, the mission, don't have a lot of interface with them, the Liberian National Police work in a co-location situation with them. If you went out there now to the airport road leading to Firestone, you would see at the gate both LNP, Liberian National Police, and Firestone Police.
In 19th, 20th centuries, you're talking about colonialism. You know, countries exploiting poorer third world nations for their natural resources. Whereas what has happened, I think, in the 21st century is that it's corporations that are doing it rather than countries. And in many ways, private security companies, private security contractors, they're the thin end of the wedge. They're the teeth in this whole corporate assault on the resources and the wealth of the world.
Thinking about the difference between the rich and poor, Cannes and Monrovia. And this is the country that's got the diamonds, got the gold, oil, rubber, wood. There's something really ironic about that. There's also something odd about the wealthy coming over here with the protection of people like Paul. People like Paul protect interests. They don't protect rights.
Monrovia is not a place you want to be out and about in after dark. It's clear to me, after only a few days, that the Liberian police have little or no control. And although the UN have a strong presence here, they still don't deter the criminal gangs who control the city by night. But whatever about the dangers of Monrovia at night, it was nothing compared to what we were about to face the very next day. From the plazas of Cannes to the streets here in war-torn Liberia, I've been trying to follow Paul Butler, a private security contractor. We haven't been able to access Paul for the last couple of days, so we were trying to get a hold of him last night. We're all staying in the same hotel, so we rang his room to discover that he had checked out. Very odd. Eventually we got a call saying he's gone off the radar. We have to be outside the hotel at 9 o'clock this morning. Wear light clothing, bring your passport and plenty of water. So we're assuming we're going to see some diamonds, some product. But it's all very mysterious. Eventually we found Paul, with the help of our 2 Liberian police officers and our local driver, neither of whom inspired confidence.
James? What's going on, man?
Together.
Huh?
Together.
We're getting out?
So we're outside this fairly rundown hotel. Stephen, Paul's partner, is outside. Any more than that, we don't know. Morning, sir. How are you?
Doing good, man.
Did you sleep well?
I sleep well, man. How's everything?
Good, good. What's the story?
The story is we're heading for out of town today.
Yeah.
We'll be leaving for the Lofa Bridge area.
Can you tell us what's going to happen when we get there?
Yeah, we'll be looking at some stones
Okay.
from the local market.
Okay.
Sure.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen. It's like some sort of low-rent James Bond movie here or something, isn't it? I don't know what the hell is going on. And I think they want to get us back in the van really quickly because we're drawing attention to the whole thing, the whole subterfuge of it. I would get the impression, or maybe I'm being paranoid, but just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. And then I spotted an Indian gent. I suspected this was the client that Paul had been keeping from us for the past few days. Good morning, how are you, sir?
Very good, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
You too.
I'm Liam. Very nice to meet you, sir.
Hey.
Morning, Chief, you well?
Oh, you all right?
Yeah, well. You all set?
All set to go. How's things at the hotel? Good?
Grant, yeah. You checked out?
They did, yeah. We check out when we're doing business because everybody knows we're up there now.
Paul was becoming protective of his client. It seemed he didn't want us getting too close. I discovered that Deepak is a gemologist, a diamond expert. He was here to verify the quality of the rough diamonds, but more importantly, he represents one of the largest diamond businesses in India. We are now heading out of Monrovia. Which apparently there's a lot of advice one shouldn't do. As we left Monrovia, I couldn't help thinking about a story the American prospector Leonard Cragness had told me the day before, about just how dangerous trips into the jungle could be. Can you tell me how come your son was in Africa? How come you came to join him?
He left the computer world in California where he made $150,000 a year and had a nice house, a nice motorcycle, a nice boat, and all the toys a man likes to have. But he wanted more. He wanted entrepreneurship. And so he wanted to go to Africa and buy gold because he saw all these articles and he believed that he could make a fortune. So I went to New York to try to generate $10 million. In the meantime, he did something that him and I agreed wasn't safe. Go to the bush with cash. So these two men, we met these two guys the second day we were in Ghana. They won his trust in 4 or 5 days. They convinced him to go to the bank with their car, pick up the money, $60,000 he drew out of the bank. And he had probably $20,000 on him because he was looking for a car and an office and all that. And then they told him they were taking him to Takwa. And they actually shot him point blank and he fought him for several minutes after that. And then they attacked him with cutlasses. And then it was done.
And you don't think that the kind of pursuit of gold is something that contributed to what happened?
The pursuit of making money on my son's part wasn't necessarily gold, it was more making money. He just picked a bad business because he was naive, I was naive. Every investor, foreign investor that comes there are naive. I send files to the FBI on a regular basis about exactly how it works, and I could tell you some stories that would curl your hair.
The possibility of danger suddenly seemed very real. As we drove deeper into the bush, I noticed that our driver was struggling to keep up. It was crucial that the two vehicles stayed in close convoy. He was becoming the very last thing we needed, a liability. We were starting to slow Paul down, and as far as he was concerned, that just wasn't an option.
demoting them.
Demoting them for the moment, you know, because I'm not sure if you can drive that well.
Yeah. Don't think he's too pleased, does he?
He's doing a lot of dangerous stuff, you know.
Yeah. Paul, have you had any dealings with the UN at all? This is the biggest UN mission on the planet, isn't it? It's the most expensive one. And
we see them around, right, but we don't get involved with them at all. The less you say, the better it is, you know?
yeah.
I'll tell you one thing, though. When you go into the diamond industry and you come out 3 hours out of town, the price changes about 40%.
How do you mean the price? The price of what?
The diamonds.
It changes. So
40% less. The brokers, they have all these stones in town that are hanging around for like 2 and 3 months. Nobody will buy them, and you get the odd people coming in that'll buy them, you know. But you can never make money out of it. So the professionals tell me anyway. So these guys like to go into the bush, deep into the bush, and do their purchasing there.
Liberia's diamonds are infamous. In 1989, rebel warlord Charles Taylor used the precious stones to fund his reign of terror. These so-called blood diamonds were subsequently banned on the international market. In 2007, the UN lifted that ban when Liberia's newly elected government signed up to the Kimberley process, a certification scheme to prevent the trade in conflict diamonds. It's supposed to track the origins of all rough diamonds by only allowing government-approved agents to handle them. Agents like Paul. But not everyone is convinced by the Kimberley process. In Monrovia, I had talked to human rights lawyer Alfred Brunel.
Generally, there are huge issues of enforcement within the Kimberley process itself. And for example, it was established that there are more than 100 border crossing points in Liberia. Maybe not more than 25 of them were actually manned by security officials. The rest was open. So anyone could go and come by. How do we ensure that diamonds now, the so-called conflict diamonds, are not entering the stream of commerce in Liberia or in Guinea or in Sierra Leone?
I was quite shocked, to be honest, when we were told that the government's tax on the diamonds through the Kimberley process is 3%. Is that correct?
This is where the real problem is, because the lack of development is a source of conflict. And I think it's a shame to world leaders to just want to focus just on conflict-related diamonds and don't want to address the hard issue. I mean, if you have a diamond that is costing $1 million, Liberia only gets 30%. How much of that 3% go around? We have to approach it from a whole value chain perspective in terms of where is the total value of this stone from cradle to grave, from the pit to the jewelry shop. How much would this diamond cost? And how much of that value will come back to the country or to those poor communities where the diamonds are being mined?
It's like the United Nations out there now. Steve is off talking to Tony, our producer. Paul is off talking to his partners. We've no idea what's going on. We've just pulled off the asphalt road. So we're just waiting to see what the grown-ups are talking about. I'm trying to get the driver to take us on. He doesn't want to take us on, so we're in negotiations at the minute. It's getting a bit heated. But we're not stopping here, I'll tell you that.
It's all about money.
It's a question of money.
Call your boss. Anyway, we're losing time here, so we better move on. So let's see what he says.
Our driver and his boss were holding us to ransom. Paul was losing patience. We were now a real threat to his deal. It was either pay up or get left behind.
Yeah, how much? Yes, I'm listening. $200. And no more problems, right? We can carry on now, right? If the brand breaks down, you give me back the $200. You hear me? Okay.
Go, we're going in the van.
With $200 in his pocket, our driver's concern for his van suddenly evaporated. We headed for Loafer Bridge, a rebel stronghold during the Civil War. Today, it's the gateway to some of Liberia's busiest diamond mines. We pulled into the town. Paul took a detour and disappeared out of sight. I don't know what I expected from the hub of the country's diamond industry, but it certainly wasn't this.
I've just come across Loafer Bridge, and Paul, Stephen, and the gemologist have taken a snaky left us here, and they're going to have to look at some stones. We've been promised we're going to get a look at the product, but we shall wait and see. We're just waiting now. I think it's kind of ironic that the shop is selling flip-flops, plastic buckets, lino, and then these are sifters for diamonds, the most precious stone on the planet. And this is not exactly Stephen's Green Shopping Centre. Hello, sir.
How are you?
How are you? Nice to meet you. Are you a farmer?
Yes.
Do you do any mining?
No. Right now, I want to do farming.
Okay. Why not get the stones?
To feed my children, and I want to carry on farming.
So on your farm, under the ground, is there diamonds?
Yes, when you check for it.
But you prefer to put vegetables? I like your style.
After waiting for the best part of an hour, it was becoming clear that whatever deals Paul was doing, they weren't going to happen in front of us. The longer we hung around, the more attention we started to get, and not all of it was sounding too friendly.
Okay, we are at the point there.
And then we got a break. A local man willing to take us to the mines, admittedly with the help of a $50 bill.
Welcome in Loafer Bridge. Thank you very much. We highly appreciate your presence here.
It's lovely to see the place. Fast, go. Oh, go. Oh, that was lucky. We shouldn't have made that. That's deep.
Whatever concerns we had about the roads up to Loafer Bridge, at least they were roads.
I'd say there's 50% chance we're going to get stuck, unbelievably stuck. Oh, nice. Good driving. But once. Don't go over too left. That way, dude. You're going to catch the bottom of the van. We are now. I didn't think I'd be in the middle of the jungle in a high ice. If it was easy, everybody'd be diamond mining, wouldn't they?
Stop.
After an hour of traveling deeper into the jungle, we arrived at the mine. Once again, not quite what I expected. It's a far cry from the jewelry shops and glamour of the Côte d'Azur.
Hello? Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Look.
Yeah, come on.
When you think about it, it comes down to a guy with a bit of bamboo. Is that where it ends up from the panning? Goes into the centre?
Yeah.
It's like gold. It's like the gold falls to the bottom, but the diamond goes to the middle.
Huh?
It's iridescent. Did you see that one? Can I see?
Yes.
Wow. So this is half carat?
Yeah, half carat.
It's about half carat?
Yes.
And this is sold for 150? 200 US?
Yes.
And I, a long time ago, bought just less than half a carat, 0.4 of a carat cut, and I think I paid $1,100 for a cut one. And these gentlemen doing this will get 150 US for that. A multiple of 10 times by the time it's cut, polished.
You want to look for a bridge. Now, if someone tells you this is where it's a major source of the diamond production in Liberia, you'll be shocked. So I think it's a shame that we allow that to happen. What we are doing is preparing the next generation of rebel leaders, because in the end, they are going to rather say, we are not happy with this, and you're going to find an issue of insurrections and conflict brewing once again. Because these are young men who are searching for livelihood, for survival. And every day they dig and they dig and they dig. How long do we believe that they will continue digging in that pit until the world decides to respond to say, look, we need equitable trade. We need to ensure that what we get from diamond is shared. Diamond only brings prosperity to the west and to the north. It brings no prosperity to poor African villages.
So this was a huge part of the war in this country, and it's also the symbol of love for a lot of people in the world. And these are the men who give you the dream. For all the girls out there, if you saw the process of how this is done and some of the pain, some of the misery, you might think a little differently about the ring on your finger. Not that I'm trying to rain on your parade or anything, but yeah.
Why isn't there in Liberia cutting, polishing, the whole process? Instead of selling these rough stones for very small amount of money, and everybody else seems to be making huge amounts of profit.
They are not advising this government that the best way to your resources is adding value. I mean, take, for example, the oldest and largest investment in Liberia, the Bristol Firestone Company. They were here in 1926. It's a decade and a half. They produce natural rubber. We have not been able to produce a rubber band since 1926, 8 decades later. Everything linked to rubber is exported. They drive the policy. That's what it is. They drive the policy supported by their home governments.
Investment should not be about people bringing capital, putting it in here, exploiting primary resources, and exploiting them to wherever they want to take them without processing them here. You have a situation where all we are providing is the labor, we're providing the resources, we're giving the contracts, get a percentage, and the rest is history. But does that mean that the living condition of the people right there in West Point has changed?
It's not going to improve,
Or
is it?
if you go further down into the rural area, does that change the living condition of the people? That, for me, is real development.
Clearly, some people are doing very well out of these diamonds, but not these people.
Now, Paul, the first thing I say is you had that bag around your shoulder and under your arm. Now it's in a more delicate place.
You see too much.
Yeah. What's the story?
There's no story.
There's no story?
No.
There is a
Things
story.
are
You're just
happening
not telling
behind
us.
the
Oh,
background,
they're happening in the background. You're leaving him to it?
Yeah.
Is he identifying the stuff?
Yep.
Let me ask you one thing, Paul. I mean, you look around here. The last thing, if you didn't know where you were, would you assume that you were in a place that has the most precious stone in the world?
You see that road we came up there, the 41 kilometres of that off-track road, right? 3 or 4 months ago, there was nothing there, right? So they built that road based on the exportation of rubber, timber, and diamonds and gold, you know? The government put that in, so that'll tell you the trade. Don't ask me where the money is going when you look at this, you know? It's sort of hard to believe people live like that, but it seems to be the way of life anyway. Obviously, they're not seeing most of that money. It's gone through people upstairs, maybe, you know, or the investors, or somebody like that.
I mean, it's hard to believe that something so precious is not, at the very least, making the people who take it out of the ground. I'm not saying wealthy, but I mean, the kids around here, their arse are out of their trousers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but maybe they have money and they wouldn't. That's the way they live, you know, around here. It's not like us where they have a nice house to show off or a nice car to drive around in, you know.
What are you telling me, to keep the money in the bank?
No, they might send them their children to school in places like that, colleges, you know, but they don't show any wealth here. Look around you, man.
I know they don't show it. My guess is they don't have it.
We had to get out of Lofa Bridge if we were going to make it back to Monrovia before dark. I realized that myself and Paul had two totally different views of this hostile environment. He sees a contract and a client to protect and is trained to focus solely on the objective. But from my perspective, it's the contrast between the poverty of these people and the wealth beneath their feet that is most striking. For men like Paul, there will always be a lot to gain in places like this, and possibly a lot to lose.
You're making a good living. You're in Cannes. You're mixing with the stars. Why the hell do you want this trouble?
Why does anybody do it? We're made for this job. This is what we do. We don't know how to do anything else, so people need our assistance. We'll come in and we'll do it to the end, and then we'll get out. We'll probably get killed doing this, you know, but we might as well get killed doing something wild and getting knocked down by a car or something like that, you know what I mean? We'll take all the precautions, you know, and we'll just get on with it, man. It's no big deal, man. That's what we do for a living, you know.
As an actor, I'm used to exploring fictional worlds, but over the past year, I've found myself in places that are none too safe, all too real, and extremely controversial.
Our captives are very impatient now.
And now I'm on the trail of a bunch of Irishmen who are battling organised crime, drug traffickers and pirates in the last place on earth you'd call a hostile environment.
It's winter. The days are shorter, colder, the nights seemingly endless. But I'm heading for summer, in paradise. However, there's a price.
Glamorous, romantic, exotic. The Seychelles is made up of 112 islands off the east coast of Africa, with white sandy beaches, tropical temperatures, turquoise, warm waters and tax haven status. It should be perfect, but things are not that straightforward.
Because behind this ultimate honeymoon destination lurks another darker world. A world populated by heroin addicts, hostages, drug cartels, and pirates.
An estimated 10% of the population are victims of heroin addiction. Their offshore banking system is being undermined by international crime gangs and drug cartels. On top of that, the country's two main industries, tourism and fisheries, have been decimated by pirate attacks.
I'm here to meet an elite group of Irish personnel who've been brought in to combat the serious crime that threatens not only the stability of these idyllic islands, but global stability. Sounds like trouble in paradise.
For the next 10 days, I'll be following Niall Scully and Declan Barber, two ex-Irish Army intelligence officers who came to the Seychelles on a one-off contract 7 years ago and are still here. I want to know why, and I also want to know how a country with a population of just 85,000 seems to have become such an international security hotspot.
I suppose the old property mantra really is location, location, location. And the Seychelles in the Indian Ocean, it's sitting on one of historically the greatest trade routes in the world. You've had slaves, you've had spices that have been traded in those waters for centuries. It declined somewhat at the time the Suez Canal was opened. But when you had the advent of supertankers and super container ships, and it was discovered it was every bit as economically viable to use the Horn of Africa and the waters off the Indian Ocean, it rocketed right back to its original historical importance.
The ocean for us has always been a key part of our way of life. You know, we're an island country. Our exclusive economic zone is 1.3 million square kilometers. So we're a small country in terms of land, but we're a big country in terms of ocean. A lot of people don't realize 2/3 of the world's oil that is shipped, meaning that it has to be transported by ship, goes through the Indian Ocean. 2/3 of the world's oil. And this is where, around the world, people depend on this.
And when the world stops, if that stops.
Exactly. It's the same for container traffic. 1/3 of the world container traffic goes through the Indian Ocean.
If anything, that area has become even more important in geopolitical terms over the last 20 years because you have two economic superpowers in terms of India and China, both of which get most of their oil and natural resources through the Indian Ocean emerging.
It must be incredibly difficult to protect your sovereignty, your independence.
Yes.
When all these very powerful people from around the world would very much like to use your waters, not only to help you, but to help themselves.
Well,
is it a difficult balance?
I would say it is a difficult balance, but at the same time, most of the time, the interests align.
But back in 2004, the Seychelles government came under severe threat. They suspected that various official offices were being bugged. They had no idea who was behind it or how to secure the leaks.
So, if you don't have the expertise to deal with these threats, who do you turn to? Well, you can't go to the English. They only left in 1976. The Americans or the EU? The Russians or the Chinese wouldn't be too impressed, and vice versa. So who else is there?
Niall Scully and Declan Barber, specialists in counter-surveillance, arrived as part of an Irish team to sweep government buildings.
Mid-2004, I received a phone call and I was asked would I be interested in doing a job in Seychelles. At that time, we used to do a lot of what they call electronic countermeasures, both deployment and detection. And it was on that basis I got the phone call to see were we interested in debugging, doing a bug search in the Seychelles.
Okay, so your background, yourself and Declan, your background is?
Both military. My background is military, Declan's background is military.
Okay, when you say military, you were spooks, military intelligence?
Some of us were, yes.
Okay. I know it's a TV term.
The TV term.
Yeah.
I suppose we wouldn't consider ourselves spooks.
A previous bug search by another foreign security agency had found nothing, but the Irish sweep was more successful.
The actual physical implementation of it, how it was installed, was absolutely world-class, and we would have regarded the techniques as being influenced by Eastern European, old Soviet methodology. This stuff was buried very deeply, and it was hidden beneath multiple layers of, let's say, technical distractors that would move you, left or right, make it look innocuous. It was very clever.
It was a state-level installation that we would call a state-level installation. So it was somebody who knew exactly what they were doing and had been very well trained.
And did you guys find out who was the recipient of the information?
I think there were certain indicators as to where it may have been going, but we were never privy to who the end recipient was.
The Seychelles government was impressed. So much so, a year later, Scully and Barber were offered another contract to oversee a new national security program.
The government set up a strategic planning committee, which was looking at Seychelles up to 2018. And through that, there were a number of problems that were raised, and we were asked would we consider looking at them, and one of the areas was police and the whole issue of drugs. Drugs was becoming an increasing problem for Seychelles, so we said we would.
Yeah. So you'd be in a much more visible capacity.
Much more visible capacity, and we brought in technicians, from the guards, and they assisted us in, setting up an organisation to particularly combat drugs.
So we're on our way to the airport, Niall, is that correct?
We have an aircraft coming in from an island of Zanzibar, an island called Pemba. It's slightly unusual in that they're just coming for an overnight stop, a refuel, and we don't have their onward destination, but we believe it may be to Kenya. So what we're going to do now is go just have a look, have a talk with the crew, and search the aircraft.
In 2008, the National Drugs Enforcement Agency, the NDEA, was set up. But this wasn't the first time an agency was set up to deal with drugs in the Seychelles.
There was a drug agency here, wasn't there?
Yes, yeah, there was a drug agency called Adams. And I suppose the common perception of the Adams unit was that it was ineffectual. And I think the local population did not trust the members of the Adams unit.
They haven't got any definite information about what's about to happen. And it's possible that there's either drugs or ransom money, and they just have to be prepared for anything. And then one of the Irish guys was coming through the metal detector there, and he just leaned into the security personnel and said, "I have a firearm in there." So there's all that sort of thing going on. Bit of cloak and dagger. Have they landed, Niall?
Yeah. It's that's been directed just to the end of the terminal here, so.
You walk in to set something like this up. The first thing you're faced with is the group that you may have to train up, or possibly, allegedly, whatever you want to call it, corrupt. So what's your kicking off point?
Okay, what we recommended at that time was that we set up a separate agency, which was independent of the police and of the old unit. And the principle behind that was that we need to establish the confidence and the trust of the public.
Okay, so that's a clean sweep then,
So we basically clean sweep, and the legislation was written that the NDA was a separate entity in law. While we work quite closely and in full cooperation with the police, we are not members of the police force. Where have you travelled from?
From today, we've come from Pemba in Mozambique, at the top of Mozambique. We picked up this plane in South Africa.
Okay. Bush pilots, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
So in terms of routing, would Seychelles be a normal stop-off point?
We don't normally do this very often.
Yeah.
This plane itself's been based in Africa for quite a while now.
What type of stuff are you doing? Mainly survey stuff, is it?
Yeah, this is pretty much all we do at the moment.
They say they've just come from a long stint in working in Africa and around Mozambique, doing geological surveys. So it looks pretty legitimate at this point.
Now, the two boys seem to be completely above board, and the boys have stopped them and pulled out all the stops. I mean, these boys are doing this job a hell of a long time. I think they, generally speaking, they know within about 30 seconds how many years you're going to be going to prison for.
The Seychelles government believed an Irish outsider like Niall Scully could administer justice without fear or favour. They also looked to Ireland and how he had hit organised crime where it hurts.
There's one very effective way of dealing with criminals, and that is to make it not worth their while by taking the proceeds of their crimes. And that was achieved back home with the setting up of the Criminal Assets Bureau, and it's happening here with the Financial Investigations Unit. Now, the man who set it up here is the same man that set up CAP.
Veronica Guerin was returning from a court sitting in Naas when her attackers struck.
After the shooting of Veronica Guerin, there was a serious confidence crisis in the justice system and the police in Ireland, as a result of which the government embarked on a process of taking the money out of crime and drug trafficking and organised crime. We brought in a multi-agency body to implement the laws, and we beefed up anti-money laundering laws, and we enacted proceeds of crime, which is civil confiscation, where you can freeze people's money without having to convict them of criminal offence. And we also implemented tax, where, like the American Al Capone, where you couldn't prove any criminality, but there's a fella and he's a multimillionaire without ever having worked. So against that background, there was a problem out here, and I was approached and asked to come out and to see what could be done.
But it was, in a sense, a different set of circumstances because of the offshore banking.
It was perceived that Seychelles, because of some activity a few years previously, they were in fact advertising the place as a confidential centre where you could bring your money freely, and they would guarantee that no one would interfere with it, you wouldn't be prosecuted. Now, because of international pressure, those laws were repealed, and they did have in place a fairly modern anti-money laundering act. But at the time that I arrived, there had never been a prosecution for money laundering. There had never been action taken on a suspicious transaction report, and there was no process of civil confiscation.
Okay, so that was primarily your role then, to
Yes.
set up a framework where you could nab the bad guys?
Well, no, to nab the bad guy's money.
Yeah.
It's a different concept.
Okay.
After 3 days, I had heard plenty about the influence the Irish have here, but I was still waiting for the chance to see that influence in action.
It's 6:30 a.m. We are following a car which is bringing us to the National Drug Enforcement Agency, the headquarters, for a briefing, and we're apparently going on a drugs bust. And I haven't even had a cup of tea.
Good morning. Now, the function that we have here today is in relation to intelligence which Nicole received in relation to heroin, possibly up to half a kilo of heroin in the post office. Now, the function that we have here today is to intercept the courier, if he is the courier with it, before he leaves and pass it on. Hopefully turn him on our side and persuade him to work with the NDA in delivering this to its final destination.
We've always had drugs here. I mean, people have used marijuana. I think it's the recent problems of heroin, which came to the Seychelles about 5 years ago. When it came to the Seychelles, people didn't know that this was heroin. Everybody was calling it powder, and they were putting it on cigarettes to smoke. It's only now, when we start seeing the effects of heroin on people, that people start to realize what a serious problem it is.
We've just left the briefing. We're on our way to get into position. Brendan was saying traditional surveillance here is extremely difficult because the size of the place is really small. So they have to operate in teams. They have to pass the first team onto the next team, so they're not discovered to be following. So basically what they're doing is, on this, is they're going to surround the area they think that the guy is going to be in.
Our instruction is to park here.
So the post office opens in 5 minutes?
Yep, yep.
That guy looked at us quite heavily, didn't he?
Yeah.
One of our first cases started with a suspected heroin trafficker. So the NDA, they got this information that this guy, Dugash, was heading out to Kenya to buy heroin. So they met him at the airport and asked him had he cash, and eventually he denied it first, and then he said he had, and the cash was seized, something to the order of $10,000, which was a huge sum for this jurisdiction to have in cash. So they took the cash off him, and as part of the explanation, he was said, where did you get this cash? He said it was cash belonging to himself and his friend, Mr. Hackle. So when we were digesting this, we made inquiries as to who or what was Mr. Hackle. And on inquiry, we find that he's in pre-trial custody in Germany, charged with supplying heavy-duty graphite suitable for the manufacture of medium and long-range ballistic missiles and the nuclear weapons program in Iran.
The German authorities came back. They had been investigating this man for quite some time, but had been unable to close the loop. They'd never been able to find a financial trail that proved, I suppose, that he was involved in criminal activity. And on the basis of the evidence that we supplied to Germany, the guy pleaded guilty and was convicted.
Result?
Yes. He's in the post office now, so if you could go back out and go round, let me see, the Barclays Bank crossing the cinema. You're going to be very close at that stage, okay?
All right, no problem.
Yeah, well, we've had a clothing description of the guy who's in the post office. Apparently he's already gone in to pick up the package, so we're changing location to get us a bit closer to the action.
While we tried to cover one escape route, in the other car, Agent Nicole got news none of us wanted to hear.
Okay. All right, no problem. All right. They told me that the guy have already picked up the package and they managed to lose him. I don't know how.
And now, we don't know where to go.
We know exactly where he's going to. We know exactly where he's going to pick up. He picks up the package. And from going into the post office to coming out of the post office, every road is covered and they still managed to lose him and he's driving a car.
It seems that the agency's mole in the post office had bottled it. They hadn't made the call in time to say the parcel had been picked up. The suspect and the package were gone. As a last resort, Niall decided the unit should split up and search the area.
Since our inception, we've arrested in excess of 2,000 people. We have seized approximately 70 million Seychelles rupees worth of heroin. Prior to that, we were talking single figures in terms of what had been done. In terms of traffickers, you know, we've arrested approximately 173 traffickers. So they're your guys who are bringing stuff in, and they're significant players. They've cut him close to the hospital.
Oh, he is. They've got him.
So they have him now. So we'll go back down and head towards the office.
Does he have the stuff on him, or did he get rid of it?
What they do is they get him out of the area quick. They're going to search him as soon as they get to the office.
The more successful you are at what you're doing, the further up this drug food chain you're going to go. Is that a bit of a concern? The more successful you are, the more trouble you could be in.
I'm aware of it and need to remain so. Some of our cases, our investigations have involved the international drug trade. We had one investigation in particular which was pivotal in the arrest of the second-in-command of one of the largest drug trafficking gangs in Africa and indeed in Europe. And that was the Mamalele gang, and it was
this one from Kenya or something?
Yeah, lady from Kenya, very powerful, supplying drugs to Ireland, UK, Holland, France, and most of Africa. Her second-in-command has been arrested by the German authorities in Kenya on foot of a Seychelles investigation. And that is a direct result of our work. You know, so you have to be conscious of the fact that we're making people lose money, and people do not like to lose money.
The guy's over there by the wall being spoken to by Niall. He's sitting down. I can see him shaking his head already.
Does this belong to you?
No. It's the official vehicle. It's the truck I work in. No, my friend. No camera. I don't need camera.
He's worried.
He's very worried.
He's very worried.
Yeah, he's shaking there. So we just need to get this going fast because people settle very quickly.
Yeah.
You know.
You need to get them on the nervous days, I presume, too.
At this point, we haven't found any drugs or any suspected drugs, so we don't really have anything to hold him on. But he doesn't know that just yet, so we will interview him, and if we don't get anything from that, if he's non-cooperative, we most likely will have to release him.
After an hour of intensive questioning and with the prospect of having to let him go, Niall and the team made a breakthrough. After 12 hours of running around like headless chickens, thinking this story was possibly going nowhere, it turns out that the guy they picked up has been turned. He's admitted picking up the drugs in the post office. We are on our way now to the apartment where they apparently are. And there's a team full of agents in the car in front of us, and we're going to film the pickup. In return for cutting a deal, the suspect was prepared to lead the agency straight to the package.
You don't know what that content is?
There are some things, but I don't know.
You know there's something wrong in it.
Yeah.
Something illegal in it. Yes.
Okay, you know there's something illegal in it, right? Okay, you are being arrested for possession of what we suspect is controlled drugs.
That's what I feel sorry for him. I don't know why. What can you do? The package contained $75,000 worth of heroin. That's more than 3 years' wages over here.
He says he did it simply because he needs the money. He's broke, he's got a family to rear, and for no other reason. He claims it's the first time he's done it. What will happen now, we will attempt to do a controlled delivery. And at this point, he's cooperating with us to effect that controlled delivery, which will be to the person who he claims has asked him to collect these items.
This will stand to him?
This absolutely will stand to him, yes.
The Irish are well known for being versatile and resourceful. Working on the international stage has never been a problem, but this is different. These guys have been hand-picked to help rebuild the entire Justice Department of a sovereign, independent state.
That's a lot of responsibility. And with responsibility comes power, and with power comes scrutiny.
Niall Scully and Declan Barber have been labelled by some as nothing more than hired mercenaries. Both the Seychelles and the international media have reported on accusations that Scully and Barber have been involved in phone hacking, embezzlement, surveillance and bugging. Newsflash. Irish cops in Seychelles involved in financial piracy and kidnapping, according to allegations. Men say Seychelles kidnaps for ransom. The men claim in federal court that they were kidnapped by Irish mercenaries working for the Seychelles government and threatened with trumped-up drug and money laundering charges that would have carried a 10-year prison sentence. And there's a lot more than this.
Well, I think the whole private contracting industry has become a sexy story over the last 10 or 15 years because people wonder where it's going. And I think in countries like the Seychelles, it has generated a lot of headlines for a number of different reasons. First of all, why Irish? Why Irish contractors? I mean, people would have expected American, maybe French. So there was the interest in why Irish guys were going out there doing this type of work. And I think secondly, whenever you have foreign contractors that come into a country providing a service, an expert service, that's going to impact on domestic policy, both in the short term or the long term, it's going to attract attention.
There's been various allegations in the papers about the Irish guys that have been here. How do you view these allegations?
Well, I think you need to take it with a pinch of salt where the information is coming from, number one. I draw the distinction between local press and then press that's connected politically. Now, we're guilty of that in the Seychelles. The governing party has its own newspaper, which likes to distort information a certain way. And the opposition parties have their own newspapers as well. And they like to go the opposite. So somewhere in between the both, there's the truth. Now, as far as assassinations and disappearances and so on, today, I think on those kind of reports, things are sensationalized, and it's to score political points.
We knew when we would be upsetting certain people, particularly the criminal types, we were going to get some kickback. But nonetheless, you know, when you see particularly lies, blatant lies being printed and told about you, it is annoying. It is extremely annoying. But I suppose we made a conscious decision not to respond to it, not to give it any credibility, you know, not going to engage with it.
We've been targeted, you know, in Seychelles. They've used it in New York in terms of negative publicity. But the most disappointing aspect for me has been that there was negative and completely false publicity propagated in Ireland. You know, and typically this would be, say, a case lodged and never served. Our professional reputations in Ireland were called into question. You know, all of the military and the Garda guys working here. And it made me really angry. It was a real negative.
But the Irish presence has not just attracted media attention. It has also divided opinion among the locals here.
It's brought a lot of discontent on the ground because people generally feel, and then it is a general perception, that a lot of qualified and highly skilled Seychellois are being marginalized because of the politics of the situation. And I think therein lies the certain reticence, or perhaps what is perceived as a hostility towards foreign nationals, because people feel that they are taking our jobs. That's probably how the Irish are being seen in the police force at the moment.
You're there to do a job, to be effective, but you're a foreigner.
Yes, and that is difficult. It is difficult. And on one hand, some people may be unhappy, but in reality, there are very few people who will do the job, and that is a fact.
The president of Seychelles and this government has always said, well, we want to get things done efficiently, and we should base it on the fact that we need to get these things done, and often we do need external expertise. The nationality of that expertise doesn't matter.
Even after a week, I could see that the Seychelles is a country trying to get its house in order. In 2008, it received a loan from the IMF to deal with its debt crisis. Since then, the FIU has been tackling money laundering, while the NDEA has been battling with the war against drugs.
On the surface, things couldn't be more different to Ireland. But the Seychelles are broke, the IMF are in,
unemployment, corruption, you name it. Sound familiar? But they have one big problem that we don't have to worry about. Somalia. Or to be more specific, Somalian pirates. In 2007, the Seychelles government appointed former Irish Defence Force personnel to help them overhaul their national security. Little did they realise at the time that these men were about to come face to face with one of the oldest forms of international terrorism.
We are very concerned about the future. Our captors are very impatient now that nobody has been in touch to enter into negotiations.
When we got here, firstly, piracy was unheard of, and it burst had caught us all by surprise early in 2009. And our first direct experience of it was when a fishing vessel with a number of Seychelles aboard went missing. And it was missing for a number of days, and there was no communication, no radio contact. And finally we got a call from Somalia to basically say that they had them there, they were holding them hostage, and they were looking for $10 million in ransom. So it was some shock, as you can imagine, to Seychelles to see that a small island 1,000 miles away from Somalia could be threatened by Somali piracy.
The Somali coastline is the most dangerous stretch of water in the world. In 2010, there were 445 pirate attacks. Almost 1,200 hostages were seized, and millions of dollars in ransom was paid out.
Somalia has 30 years since it's been a failed state. Now, 30 years without authorities, without structures, without police, does lead to, I would say, a unique brand of lawlessness. What started in Somalia was you had angry fishermen that started to attack foreign vessels that were in their waters.
Illegally fishing?
There was an element of illegal fishing, of illegal dumping of toxic materials. There were a lot of illegal activities taking place in the Somalia's
They were taking advantage of the lawlessness.
Taking advantage of the lawlessness. So you had essentially some of the local communities that hit back at that, and that's how it started. But then some of them realized that, yes, you seized these vessels had a value. That's when the piracy, I would say, in its commercial aspect started.
This is the warlords, I presume.
This is where the warlords realized that if they put money into these ventures, you know, pay 10 boats, go out, see what they can bring back. They could either sell the vessels that were brought back for money, or they realized even more, if there were people on board these vessels, they could charge enormous ransoms.
The Seychelles economy is highly dependent on tourism, which generates 70% of its external revenues, and fisheries. And the tourism is essentially maritime-based. See all these yachts tied up around us here. I mean, under normal conditions, many of these yachts would be leased. They'd be out on the water. So the impact of piracy on Seychelles, like, it's my own personal opinion that no country in the region has been as adversely affected by piracy in proportional terms, in economic terms, as Seychelles. It really adversely affected its economy.
This is how it works. There's 10 or 11 guys, that's the unit, on the main ship. These barrels, that contains the diesel. They have a half barrel one of these which they cook on. They could stay for a month, these guys, looking for vessels. Now, when the attack takes place, these are the attack vessels. They can't be detected because they're so small and the waves at the sea, radar can't pick them up. So they do a dawn raid, and basically everybody's half asleep. The first guy goes up from this, throws the ladder up. He's on an 1/8 share of whatever they take. Half of the money is gone by the financier, the fellow pays for the boat, and the rest, for the people that do it, they share it. This guy, the first over, he's got a Kalashnikov on his back. He's up the ladder, straight into the wheelhouse, opens fire, or takes everybody, and immediately, these guys, it's more than their job's worth, and they just put their hands up.
Many of these ventures would be unsuccessful. But if you're lucky enough to be part of a successful hijack, the returns are exceptionally high, you know, with maybe 1,000, 1,200% profit for your initial investment.
That's extraordinary.
So it's an extraordinary business model, and loath though I am to say it, it must be one of the most profitable business models in the world.
While we were there, news broke that a Seychellois fishing vessel had been captured by Somali pirates. I wanted to hear firsthand what the experience was like. In 2009, Francis Ruku was one of the first Seychellois to be taken. He spent 88 days in captivity in Somalia.
The method they used was the skiff with the attack boats?
Yeah. The skiff and the mothership. And when they came on board, they just shot next to my feet and over my head.
That must have been horrendous.
Yes. Once we get to Somalia, they start the negotiation. The negotiation started with the Seychelles. And the worst part was the time that we spent on land. And this, I'll tell you, it was very tough. It's very hard. Yeah.
And how much was the initial demand?
At the beginning, it was around $4 million, asking $4 million. And then they went down, and then we were released like that.
The details of the negotiations have never been officially revealed by the Seychelles government. But Francis and the 6 members of his crew were released unharmed.
This has developed into something else now, hasn't it, since you came back?
Yes.
Because we know you are involved in negotiations at the moment for a ship that has been taken in the last few days.
Yes, because what happened when we were in Somalia, there was a committee here in Seychelles, and there were 2 Irish that were involved in the negotiation committee.
This is Declan and Niall?
Yes, and now also I'm part of the team.
So you helped them with the psychology of the situation,
yes.
Where people might be in their heads and...
Yes.
When the hostage crisis broke, the Seychelles government realized they had at their disposal 2 Irish specialists in counter-terrorism.
When you came over, what, 2004 originally, was it?
Yes.
Did you see yourself in 2011 being in a hostage negotiation room? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Liam, when I came over, it was basically, largely I felt on an education brief. So this is quite different.
So how did you feel when you found yourself in those positions?
I don't believe I reacted any differently to any other army officer who would have been in that room. So essentially, you're taught to detach yourself from the emotion of the situation as best you can, and then to focus on the achievement of the mission. And if there's one thing that defines army people, from all aspects of the army, it's you've got to achieve the mission. And the mission in this, in this context, the mission narrows down to a very sharp focus. Stop them going to Somalia. And military people are turned to think in terms of what's my overall situation, what are my options, what are the constraints, and they iteratively reduce them down to whatever needs to be done with the minimum use of force to solve the problem.
As we know, you're the head of the Financial Investigations Unit. How does that correspond with your particular involvement in piracy, your direct involvement?
The FIU would have an interest in piracy straight away because it's an organised criminal activity, and the financial trail, the financial streams are essentially a driving motivator for piracy.
The ransom of $2 million was ferried in a dinghy to a pirate speedboat.
Officially, no government will admit to paying ransoms. Yet hostages continue to be released, and Somali pirates continue to make large profits. But now, the Seychelles government has decided to lay down the law.
The global response has to be one of law enforcement. And this is where the key issue is, how do we look at the ocean? The problem when looking at the ocean is a lot of the ocean is not under the control of any individual state. Now, if a crime is committed in these international waters, there is the principle under the law of the sea of universal jurisdiction, meaning that any state has the right to prosecute a crime that has taken place. Now, that's the theory. In practice, as soon as anybody hears that there's Somali pirates, oh, we don't want them in our prisons.
In 2009, the Seychelles government began a systematic program to deal with the piracy crisis. They developed unique legislation which meant that they became the first country to arrest and prosecute Somalian pirates. They also set about transforming their local coast guard into a maritime security unit.
So the response of the Seychelles government to piracy was essentially the response of a national sovereign jurisdiction fighting for its survival, fighting for its ongoing existence. And essentially they decided that they would do everything that they possibly could to stop Seychelles hostages being taken back to Somalia.
Okay, guys, just check each other. Okay, straight down the interceptor.
Once more, Declan Barber drew on the Irish connection and drafted in ex-Irish Army Ranger Seamus Griffin to train up a specialist Navy assault team.
In a very short period of time, you've had 5 full-on assaults operations.
That's correct.
Are you with them on those?
I'm not here operationally to actually go in and lead them on the assault. My job here is solely to train them, okay? I had retired from the Defence Forces in 2005. I was asked, could I come and give a hand here, just to work on the Special Forces.
You have a lot of international experience, don't you?
Well, with the Defence Forces, yeah, we travelled all over the world. Obviously, we operated in Lebanon, East Timor, and other places. So a big part of my operational time in the Ranger Wing was to do with in the black roles we see it, so that would be counter-terrorism. Okay, so that's really what this is. A ship is just like a big building, okay, that's floating. Okay, so all the same things apply.
Very soon after Griffin arrived, the fledgling commando unit was called on to deal with a hostage situation. Griffin was asked to accompany them, something he definitely hadn't signed up for.
Up until this, the Coast Guard were really used for a lifeboat service, okay, and for fishery protection. They hadn't used their weapons. So on the way out, they welded on a Russian anti-aircraft gun, and they were welding it on as we left the harbour. So, you know, I suppose it's on-the-job training.
Yeah, but some people's on-the-job training involves being shown how to use a new computer. Not getting RPGs fired at you and Kalashnikovs.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, okay, when it comes right down to it, you know, you go into those situations for the guys beside you, okay? Sure, you're doing it for your country, okay? And that was my experience, certainly, with the Army Ranger Wing. I understand where these guys are. They're young, they're trying to defend their country. All I did was just try and do the best I could to get them into the right type of training, okay, and to the right, you know, condition to go and face that fire.
Yeah, but these things unfold.
Absolutely.
You have experience. You're the most experienced man on that boat.
Absolutely.
You're not going to stand back and say, and you cocked it, the AK, and that's him over there. He'd be a good fella to fire at.
Yeah.
You're going to be in the thick of that.
Well, it didn't happen.
No!
We're just getting into pirate season, okay? And as I said earlier, we've 2 Seychelles gone already, and there will be other incidents, okay, during this season. Okay, so the guys just have to be ready for it and try and be one step ahead of the pirates.
In the ongoing battle for security in the Indian Ocean, many countries and interested parties are operating on the ground. Organizations like Interpol, the FBI, and the US Naval Criminal Investigative Service also provide vital intelligence to the Seychelles.
The Seychelles is a perfect environment for us because of the aggressive nature of Seychelles law enforcement in dealing with the problems of piracy and narcotics. To work with NDEA and develop information that might lead to maritime interdiction of drugs, that's what we get paid for. To work with FIU and Declan Barber and potentially get at the supporters of piracy, that's what I get paid for.
I suppose when you think about this, it's extraordinary. If the Somali pirate ships here, you've got the P-boats, the gunboats, that have been a gift from the United Arab Emirates, just there. Over there, just to the left of those trees, there's an American warship. You've got the Irish guys who are assisting the Seychelles people. And there's a huge amount of people who have a vested interest in this place. Strategically, it's incredibly important. You've also got the French here, Russians, and the EU. And everybody wants a little piece of this. And because this place has no money, they have to take assistance from wherever they can get it. And also keep their independence, which is incredible tightrope that they have to walk. I don't envy them. I really don't envy them.
The Seychelles' zero-tolerance approach to piracy and the non-payment of ransoms has seen them engage in forceful military tactics, which has led to the successful prevention of 5 separate pirate attacks. The result? The effective release of 35 hostages and the incarceration of 63 Somali pirates held here in the country's only prison.
If no ransoms are paid, the business model is dead.
But also, ransoms are paid to protect life.
Of course.
So how do you find the balance?
It is a very difficult balance, but I will look at it from a slightly different angle. In any capital of the world, or in any city of the world, if a bus is taken hostage, I doubt that ransoms will be paid. Now, the fact that it's taking place at sea should not mean that we suddenly agree that this is a lawless area and that we have different rules. When pirates seize hostages, they are committing an act which is essentially terrorism.
My time in the Seychelles was drawing to an end, but there were still 2 hostages being held by pirates somewhere off the coast. Despite that, Niall Scully and his unit were going on a night drug raid to the outer islands, and I persuaded them to take me with them.
Right, guys, last week we had an NDA team attempting to make an arrest on Pralin, and they were unable to effect that arrest as they were surrounded by a group of criminals. At that time, they were outnumbered approximately 5 to 1. The mission, Team Alpha, Ziggy's team, we're going to advance the residence, and a primary reason for being there is it is a drug search. I had a report this evening that suspected pirates have been sighted approximately 20 nautical miles from our destination. 3 skiffs observed in the area. I've instructed Ken, when we board the boat, to liaise with the team leaders, and we want lookouts posted on the way over and on the way back. And if you spot something, guys, don't take your eye off it. If there's any engagement to be done, that will be done by the rear gunner on the boat.
We're about to head down to the harbour now. And we've just received the information. Not only are we going on a potentially dangerous raid, but there's pirates about 20 miles from where we're going. There's 2 ways of viewing it. If you are going to get met by pirates, they're the right team to be with. But at the same time, it's a double threat.
As I boarded the gunboat, I was struck by the sheer scale and treacherous nature of the job that this small group of men face in trying to protect these most hostile of waters. As we got closer to the shores of Pralin Island and the risk of a pirate attack got smaller, I began to relax. All we had to worry about now was the next stage of the operation: to find, confront, and arrest a drug dealer and his gang.
There could be up to 8, and it's a very small house, but it just depends. We could be lucky. In fact, the less people in here for us, the better. It'll be easier to control.
Is this it?
Basically, what you would normally see in that blue paper was heroin. It's heroin wrapped in that blue paper.
The hardline approach the Irish are taking to the Seychelles problems may be working on the ground, but questions have been raised as to whether it can be effective in the long term.
Waves of foreign nationals have come in and gone. And the question is, why? We talk about the strong arm of the law, but the strong arm of the law needs to be seen to be working. If it's tied up behind somebody's back, and that's the general perception that very often that's what's happening, and you can bring in as many foreigners and many foreign nationals to try and resolve the situation, it's not going to go away, because there isn't the ultimate will to make it happen.
You hear stories all the time about who's bringing the drugs in. I mean, the small guys, they can't bring in 2 million rupees worth of drugs into the country. We know who's got the money. We know who can bring the drugs in.
And are those people, are they in power here?
No, they're well connected. Okay. They're well connected. And they're obviously now very wealthy people.
Do you think there's the political will here to catch the boys at the top? A lot of people think they're very well connected.
What I would have to say, it has been our experience that there's an awful lot of misperception out there. For example, that there are very big drug lords, that some of them may be politically connected. Liam, we haven't experienced that directly. Now, having said that, perhaps someday we will actually come against a figure within the establishment or who's prominent in some other sense, who is either organising or involved in drug trafficking or money laundering or whatever. And we believe, and I don't think we would stay here if we didn't, we absolutely believe that the government are completely committed
So tell me what happened last week.
I don't know.
Pierre, tell me about this man.
I know you brought in one of the agents who was here last week.
Yes, he's identified two people. This gentleman here and the guy who's just inside being searched at the moment. This guy was present. The guy who's inside was present. He had a machete. He said the machete was in your hand.
Yes, it was in my hand, but I'm not sure him.
Is this the one? It's very important for the agents and for the credibility of the agents that we do this, and that we show the agents that we're prepared to stand up and back them and stand by them in situations like this. Otherwise, you know, it's going to be impossible for an agent to be able to walk around here without being threatened.
What's the chap with the machete going to be charged with?
Threatening an NDA agent, obstructing an NDA agent. Threatening an NDA agent is a very serious offence. Okay, it can result in up to 5 years imprisonment and or 300,000 rupees of a fine. Get him his t-shirt, shoes, toothbrush, whatever else he needs.
Taking a step back, looking at coming over, looking at what's happening here. What's your personal overall view of the thing?
I would like to say I'm finishing up every Christmas. I keep saying I'll finish up at Christmas. However, the job never seems to be finished, and you know, I've committed to seeing this through to the end. And you know, I think the government of Seychelles and certain members of it, they've listened, and they've had the patience to let us try what needs to be tried, and it's proven to be successful. The big thing for me has been losing a lot of time with my family, with my wife and my family, you know, and you can't get that back, and no money replaces that time you spent away from kids growing up and for birthdays and all that, and I miss lots of that. And I suppose with hindsight, if, you know, I had to make this decision tomorrow, knowing what I know now, you know, would I do it? Probably not.
The professional experience has been very worthwhile, but I'm not sure I'd pay the personal price that I think we've all paid here. I think any of the guys here, but particularly Niall and myself, who've been out here so long.
I'd say the same thing.
I wouldn't pay the personal price again, I feel.
Yeah, it's just a sense of responsibility and duty that keeps you here. It's not for the beaches.
Well, we'll finish what we've started.
If you get a phone call from another state, says any chance you can come over now, what would you do?
My wife didn't ask you to ask that,
No,
did she?
no, let's pretend she's not listening.
All right, okay.
Would you do it again?
It would be tempting. And it may be selfish on my part, but it certainly would be tempting.